You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. Today's guest is Jason Phelps. We hung out with him at the Western Hunt Expo. I think we recorded 20 podcasts this weekend.
Pretty dang close.
At the Hunt Expo. So we'll be dropping those 2 or 3 a week. So look for those. We're dropping films on February 26th. I think we have a 6 to 8 week window we're shooting for every Sunday, beginning February 26th. So join us then. Look for our films. They're going to be good. Yeah. I think you're going to enjoy those. Today's podcast with Jason, we talk about Phelps game calls. He kind of confesses that he thought that maybe Ryan Lampers was a poacher after he'd seen how successful he was. They both grew up in the same neck of the woods.
How can this guy kill giants out of Washington?
Yeah, out of Washington. Washington, you're not supposed to find the caliber of animal that Ryan Lampers found. But that can happen when you spend 25 days in the field, for an animal. Ryan certainly has earned the skills he has through persistence and probably just natural ability. But we get into that discussion. We talk about the game calls a bit and Jason's plans, what he's been up to. It's a great show. Hope you enjoy it. Before we get into that, don't forget to, if you like the show, support us by shopping over at Peaks. Yep. Peaks just dropped a new teepee called the Solitude. We have used the hell out of it. I have a lot of film that I've never released where we've used it for the past 2 years.
Right.
And
especially
the first versions didn't go so well, but Peaks got it together, and what they've got now is pretty impressive. So if you got a question, hit us up in the comments section. We'll respond there. But it's a great teepee, can't recommend it enough. And as always, they've got the gaiters, they've got the poles, they've got the headlamp, all that stuff over there at Peaks. And when you shop there, it helps us. So use the code GRITTY over there, and use the code GRITTY over at Stealthy. Lampers is on this show. He's done a great job creating a nice rifle cover. Yeah. He's got the glassing pads.
It was a heavy hitter at the old expo.
Sold a lot of glassing pads and rifle covers. If you don't have one, check it out. It's a great product. And I recommend the Gut Health Stack.
E-Charge, man.
E-Charge.
I love E-Charge.
Those are supplements over at Stealthy Nutrition. CBD gummies for sleep.
The sleep ones.
And then the daily ones. Ryan is a huge responder to that. You may be too. Give it a try. Yeah. Use the code GRITTY over there, and you will save. You'll help Ryan and Hillary, and help us keep doing this show. So, without further ado, hope you enjoy this one. Let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call. I've got my co-host, wingman over here, Brad Hunt.
Yep. And
today's guest is Jason Phelps.
Yeah,
the Phelps game calls.
Thanks for having me.
Get them close.
We try.
So we just got back from Mexico, so I wanted to pick your brain here, okay? Because we win, first time. We're hooked. We want to go back. It was not what I expected on a lot of different levels. One of the things that shocked me, getting across the border and all of that, there were things. It wasn't that big a deal at the end of the day.
Yep.
It felt sketchy.
Yeah.
But it was actually fairly smooth.
Yep.
Well, let's just face it. Brian tried to throw us in Mexican jail right off the bat.
Did he violate some rules?
You're supposed to declare your rifle right away, and we just kept on driving.
Oh, you didn't do like the little check-in at the U.S.?
Not yet.
Oh,
yeah, they didn't really explain that in the brochure. And so I drove by, and Lampers, he stopped. Now I'm like way past.
Yeah, because you go past
and
the
they're
U.S.
like, you have to go back. And I'm like, I got a 16-foot trailer and a long bed
Did you just walk them
pickup
back?
truck. They wouldn't let me walk them back.
They wouldn't let us.
So I'm like, all right, fine. So I just drove down face first, opposite direction on the road, and Ryan's truck and I were nose to nose. And I got out and did the thing, and then I backed all the way up. They're holding up traffic, and then they did their other check, and then we drove through. And like 10 days later, we come through, and they're like, you're the dude who drove in backwards and passed the checkpoint. I'm like,
the girls are in front of us conversing, and they're like, no, is it? She's like, oh, no,
that's
him.
it.
I remember.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Well, Clay Newcomb tried to bring in a gun that he didn't even have on the slip into Mexico. We had the same thing. Clay tried to get himself thrown in jail real quick.
Yeah, Ryan tried to violate the Legacy Act and take away some shed horns into the U.S.
Yeah.
We didn't know that was a problem.
Oh, yeah, we tried. We had to toss a javelina skull because we're like, we can't bring this back out the window.
Yeah, I didn't know that. We didn't know that. And so there's a few glitches.
Yeah.
But overall, when we got to the place, we had to go 20 miles down a nasty road that's only for an off-road vehicle. No trucks down there.
Yeah.
And then when we got back there, it felt like a wilderness area, like all untouched country, mountains, super mountainous. It felt special, man.
Yeah, I love everything about it. It's crazy to think that our ranch is 47,000 acres, and you're the 6 people that get to hunt that all year.
All year.
Like it's more like secluded and like
remote.
off limits than any of your more special tags you can get in the U.S. anywhere.
Yeah.
I love it. It's I always explain it. People are like, well, what it's like? I'm like, well, it's kind of like mule deer, but mule deer hunting would be like when you get your video game and you beat it the first time through on easy, and then you like bump it up to expert and you can't like get past the first level.
Yeah.
Because these things are small, but it's really, it's a whitetail hunt, but I love everything about it.
You fell in love in 2019. I fell in love in 2020.
Yeah.
We've been hunting like Arizona since 2009, but I find myself from 2020 when I killed my first archery Coos on. Yeah, we'll go chase mule deer, but I'm always like, Brian, let's go chase Coos. I want something about Coos, you know. And now with the rifle, I'm like, yeah, let's go do that.
Yeah. I'm cashing in my Arizona points on Coos deer now. I changed the whole game. Like,
Yeah, I would say Ryan, and he's just joining the show right now. I would say that Ryan said the exact same thing that you just said, that the Coos is starting to feel more like as special because of their antlers, the difficulty of the hunt, where they live, how they live, the challenge involved, that it's as special as a mule deer hunt in so many ways. Like, it's very fulfilling.
Yep.
It's not what you would expect. In fact, we're considering the fact that it's called a whitetail an insult.
I agree.
Absolutely. They're not like whitetail.
No.
From what I've seen on outdoor TV, at least.
Yeah.
No, they're like they're like mule deer that are trapped in this pathetic little whitetail body.
Yeah. Move that a little closer for me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm just getting here. I don't know what you guys have been talking about. So
we just getting started into the Coos deer.
Okay.
Yeah. We just talked about crossing the board a little bit, but we were just discussing how the country we're in feels as remote and private and untouched as any place we've been.
Feels like we just hiked in 10 miles somewhere and we're chasing mule deer.
Yeah.
Yep. The spot that we happen to go to is like very mountainous. Brian, you and I, we treated it like a mule deer hunt. Like we hiked up into these kind of remote basins and spent time up in the rim rocks, glassing down on an area. We called it like a kill box because we put ourselves in areas that like we could shoot to.
Yep.
They weren't like 1,500 yards over. I think a lot of problem with what we've noticed with Coos deer, if you're in the wrong spot, you'll see them, but are you going to be able to catch them?
Yeah. What's your play going to be? How quick can you get to a spot where you can shoot?
Yeah. So why not put yourself in a kill box where you see them, you got a pretty dang good chance of relocating them and getting that shot.
Yeah, we very, very similar. Like I wanted to be, in the game, in a spot to kill, but then I wanted like a ridge or a basin that was maybe 800 to 1,500 off, so I could do some long range, and then like I felt like I was doing a little bit of both, right? Like we might be able to put like a long plan together, but then if they are on this face, we would be able to make a play real quick.
Yeah, we've only had the luxury of doing these bow hunts in the last few years, and so this was a treat for us to be able to actually bring the boomsticks down and hit them at 300-400 yards, which is kind of what we ended up doing.
Yeah.
But man, what a hunt! What a fun time! I mean, those little buggers are. I think there's a lot of reasons why they're so cool. They're hard to glass.
Yep.
I think you were in a little bit different area than we were, but we found our zone was extremely low density, like very few deer, which made it extra fun.
Yeah.
Because when you did find one, it was like, well, here's where we're going to park it because we just glassed
we've got deer
all day long and didn't see a darn thing, and we just found a buck. So, yeah, our goal was to like pick one up, and then spend however long it takes to relocate them.
Yep. Yeah, I remember you texted me at one point during the hunt, how many deer a day were you seeing? And I'm like, I don't know, 20 maybe on a good day. And you're like, we're seeing a quarter of that, a fifth of that. But on the we talked about this a little bit, off record, or on the phone later is, like we've hunted this area the Meat Eater team has for 7-8 years. And, last year we killed, some really good bucks for the area, and they're not anything what you guys killed. So there's this thing where I love seeing 25 deer a day, but there's also doesn't seem to be that upper potential either. So
yeah, we feel lucky. Like when we got done with the trip and we kind of put it together, like what we had just done, we had accomplished something by taking a couple of just mature bucks. But the days can be very drawn out, long, slow, because you're just not putting eyes to many deer.
Yeah.
But in the end, we came away with a couple of crankers, and even though we had long, slow days and just glass until your eyeballs bled, it's like a place that now we want to go right back to, because we did lay eyes on a couple of other bucks that we know will. I mean, maybe we won't, but we're gonna dang sure try to relocate them next year.
So, have you heard the stat? And Giannis passed this on to us, and I'm calling BS because of a situation that happened this year that. A Coos deer doe lives her entire life inside of an 800-yard by 800-yard box.
I hadn't heard that.
That's what.
It's good to know, though.
And Giannis said that.
Is it true? Is the question.
Well, the bucks obviously have a bigger range, and he states that. But we had a double main beam buck that was unmistakable. I spotted opening night after one of my partners killed her buck that morning. And I went and laid eyes on this double main beam buck, had him at 600, and like, man, these deer are so small, like, probably can make the shot. I don't want to hit him hit him bad right before dark. He'll be back, right? Because I'm running on this idea that these Coos deer don't move, and he's on a doe. And then Clay Newcomb killed it a mile and a half away as the crow flies across the main ranch road on the other side. And so it was like, man, I don't know if I believe that. But the idea is, they always say, like, when you shed hunt Coos deer, if you find them there, you go back to that same exact spot and kill them, because they're shedding in the same spot they live, the same spot they rut, which seems crazy to me. But I'll throw that out there, and hopefully it doesn't throw you guys off for next year trying to track some stuff
they don't
down.
migrate, so we know. I didn't know 800 yards. Man, that's a small little range for a doe.
Super small.
Obviously, with limited experience, we're going on our AZ experience. Now, I will say, I don't know about the does that I'm seeing, because there's no distinction between them and the does that I saw prior. Bucks are unique. I took a buck in AZ, was that 3 years ago, with my bow, and he was a very unique buck, just his configuration of his rack. And I started looking at my photos from that specific area the year before, and it didn't even dawn on me that I had killed the buck that I was looking at the year before in the exact same spot that I ended up taking that buck. So I had a lot of video of him prior, and we've seen that like consistently. We're finding those same bucks basically in the same area year after year.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the doe thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I would say this, like, it's when we spoke to Jay and other dudes who have been hunting Coos for a long time, the older and older the buck gets, the idea is their home range gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So a young deer might travel a lot farther than an old deer, which makes sense.
Trying to find his territory.
Yeah, they're king of that pocket at some point. They survived year after year, the lion hunts and the other predators. And to stay alive, they got to know their place intimately. So I think that's probably true. But one thing that we have noticed is we're in the Sonora Desert. And so I don't believe 800 by 800 is an adequate explanation. I think that's true as long as the water's still there.
Yeah.
But we have hunted areas, pockets in Arizona, where we're literally on this side of the mountain there's 40 deer, and on the back side of the same mountain there's 40 deer, and they kind of run around this mountain, and we hunt this little tiny spot back and forth. This side, if they're not on this side today, they're on that side tomorrow, and back and forth. And Ryan taught me, this blew my mind the first time we went to Arizona and I hunted with Ryan the first time. He saw a deer, and I'm like, well, you better go after it, because I just kind of thought, if you don't get him now, you'll never find him again.
Yep.
Like, these things are tough. And Ryan's like, well, I'm going to hunt the next 22 days until I kill him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. That's not what people. That's not how it's done.
He's going to be gone.
And he's like, no. And then he kept finding the deer. Some days he didn't, but the next day he would. And he's like, oh yeah, he was over here, and he's over. And then he starts getting familiar with this deer's range and where it goes. And it was very tight, very small. This went on for a couple of years. You were able to go back and find that same buck again because you didn't get him. I was able to find him, on subsequent years.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're there. Then I went back in a heavy drought year, no water. I couldn't find a deer for like 2 miles.
They had to move, go get water.
So they had to go miles to get water. Yeah. That's all I can surmise.
Yeah.
And so I think that when there is a drought, all bets are off. And when there's a rut, there's a potential, I think, that a buck will go a lot further during the rut than he might go to another mountain that he'd never go to, and he might never go to again the rest of his life.
That makes
sense. There's the possibility if you see one during the rut in a certain spot, a big buck, there's a possibility that he's within a mile, I would say.
Yeah.
But not necessarily within 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at, we were talking about this a lot on the hunt, was you and I kind of thought, well, we're going to hunt around these, we call them traditional areas, like
perennial water sources.
Yeah, wherever.
Not perennial, annual.
Annual.
Ones that
so
never
even in a drought year,
never dry.
There's going to be water. So we decided to focus on those areas versus a year like this, every creek drainage had rocks that were loaded with seeps everywhere. There's water everywhere.
Yeah, it had poured the whole week before
every
we got
low
there.
spot had water. So instead of just branching out and hiking, way outside of these perennial or annual areas, we decided to hunker down and focus on those annual areas because from what we hear, they got small ranges. The bucks do, apparently the does do as well. And that worked great for us. Brian and I were able to kill a couple of good bucks. The other guys hunted an area that wasn't that as much. They were hunting more of a transition zone, I would say. They were literally seeing new bucks every day.
Oh.
And they weren't seeing the same bucks day in and day out, where Brian and I could go back to these little annual water spots
pick them back
up. They just weren't traveling forever.
Yeah.
I think those younger age bucks are probably going to be the ones, maybe not, but in my head it makes sense, that are going to be spreading out and getting outside of their comfortable range. And the most mature are going to focus on that area they know. Makes sense in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. One of my takeaways is that Arizona has been managed for maximum deer on the landscape. Guzzlers, water sources, management practices,
predator management.
control, to try to make sure that the landscape is abundant with deer. Mexico does none of that. Zero, zilch, none. You're in an area where Mother Nature has found an equilibrium.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that equilibrium sucks for deer density.
Oh, cats are nuts down there.
Nuts.
The density of cats, because it's only depredation. We got to watch one day a 150, 160-pound Tom take a two-handed swipe at a doe in the spotter. There are just that many that, people go their whole lives without seeing a cougar. You just go down to Mexico and glass up Coos deer for a couple of days and you see a cat.
That's wild. And so one thing that I think we take for granted is how much game, how abundant our landscape is with game in the United States. And we thought because we were going where there's no pressure, no hunters, nobody goes there, that we were just going to see animals everywhere. And that was not the case. It was the lowest density of deer we've seen in a lot of places. So I had wanted to bow hunt it. I was like, man, if I had Arizona type country and nobody to bomb a hunt or anything else, and I got days, man, I would love to bow hunt it. After getting down there and experiencing it, I'm like, you might find one shooter the whole time you're there. And with bow hunting, you need opportunities.
Yeah,
you need stocks.
Yeah.
And you need multiple target bucks. And in Arizona, I'm like, we could find the same deer a few times in a row, but then there were also a lot of other bucks that day to go for. If you don't know him, you can find the other one on this mountain.
Yep.
And it just seemed like, man, there's so many chances to go to try over and over and over. In Mexico, we went days where we didn't see anything to chase at all. So it's a tough bow hunt, I think.
You need to be able to maximize those times you were seeing the bucks and up your percentages.
Yeah. No, I think, obviously Mexico has those areas where there's much higher density. Like, Jason, you were telling me there's guys that are seeing like 70 deer a day.
Yeah, we crossed the border with some guys coming, the opposite direction. Like, we're seeing 60 to 80 deer a day. But then it was even more, I would say their quality was maybe even lower than what we're seeing. So I almost feel like there's a real strong correlation between deer densities and maybe upper end quality is kind of what, the little bit that I've heard.
Very similar to mule deer. I feel like they're mule deer. It's just such a weird deal because, like, we seek out those places for mule deer where it's low density, looking for that giant.
But if you see one, you have a potential for
special. Not a lot of guys like those areas. It can be mind-numbing, right?
Yeah.
Glassing for a day without seeing anything makes you want to move, move mountain range or whatever. But man, I think that's the ticket. We found it to be the case, and I'm okay with it now. I'm pretty okay with a low density after
the end result is still what you wanted.
What it was. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, the thing that gets me, and I just telling you this, I feel like quality glassing, like Steve glasses well, Giannis glasses well. Like, we get big glass out, everybody's concentrating, and I always wonder, like, are we seeing what's there? We're seeing good numbers. You watch a doe, a couple of does for a while. You're like, well, if there was a buck, we'd see him eventually. And there are these size bucks pushing these does around. Like, it's adding up, like, if they were there. But then you get back down to the ranch house and the vaquero, the cowboys are there, and they're like, they always tell us our bucks are little. And, it's like El Magnifico is over here and Muy Grande is, whatever, like over. I'm like, God, are we missing something?
Man, we
on
had
our
that
ranch?
same story.
Yeah.
Same exact story.
Same with us.
They were literally seeing them while we were out hunting, like, walk right by the ranch house.
Yeah.
Giants is what we were told.
Well, and except, when we showed them, I'm like, is it as big as Ryan's? Like these big bucks? And that gave them pause. They sat there and they go, wider. Wider. Yeah. But they couldn't necessarily say, because we shot some big bucks, and but they were definitely bigger. We didn't lay eyes on them, or we'd have shot those, but they're there. But I think glassing, that it always amazes me, having hunted with Ryan as much and learning and watching. The one thing I hadn't done, I thought I was a good glasser before, or at least pretty good, but what I learned was that these big bucks might stand up in the whole 24-hour, or I'd say 12-hour hunt window that you're in, right? The buck you're after might stand up once and walk through this opening once and lay down. That's the nature of big bucks.
Yep.
And that means you needed a couple things to happen. You needed to just happen to look in the right spot in that 1 minute moment. And there's probably a lot that happens and you weren't looking there in that moment, and so you didn't see it. And Ryan, when I first started hunting with him, and he would just glass, and the glass never came off. It never came off the eyes. And the whole day, there was like no breaks almost. And when we did spot, and this is bears too, you're like, oh, there it is. And if you hadn't been looking in that moment for that one time,
you would have never,
in that spot, that one clue, it would have been over. You would never have found that particular giant buck. But you did, because you were disciplined and you did it. And I feel like it's those little hairs, those little threads that like he is so good at. I'm getting better at grabbing onto and then achieving the accomplishment that we're there, that the unicorn. But I just don't believe.
For example, Brian, like this year on your buck, like we kind of took separate positions. First day out, we started glassing, right? We both grabbed different vantages. Now, Brian, like, he goes up, which is smart. See more country. So he had a little different view than I did. I was kind of down low, looking like down this long drainage. And he went up. He saw a buck that I had no idea was there. Where I was glassing from, basically looking at the same country, but he just had a little bit of elevation. So he picked up this little saddle that I couldn't quite see, And that was the one tip that ended up, in the end, putting us on his buck, and we killed that buck.
For just
it was just one clue. Yeah, I was under the assumption there were no deer in this drainage whatsoever. But Brian went up, a couple 100 feet in elevation, and he got eyes on that one, and that's what sealed it for us.
And that's, what you're saying, like not picking your eyes up or different locations. One thing I found with Coos deer, I want to be as square to that face as possible. If I get like any little 10 or 15 degree angle, it just covered up, another 20, 30%. So it's like that. Like I want to look into the face of a ridge if I can. And just like you said, never like literally an eye in the spotting scope all day long and never getting out of it. Like you're just exhausted, or you're like, well, I know Coos deer are always finicky in the morning. Like, do I really want to waste energy and time? But like you could also pick them up in the morning. So
that's what happened.
First light, and but it's like you get that like 9 to 11 movement that seems to be better, and so you want to like say, but it just they're a tricky little critter, and then they do, we just call it doing Coos deer stuff. They do crazy things, and they've got an uncanny ability to walk with a tree, between you and them, so that they have a chance to get out of you. And it's they're fun. They're fun.
Or they just like spaz out, like for no reason. You'll be watching one, and he's just like, "Man, what spooked him? Nothing. Nothing spooked him. He just freaked out and decided to sprint 200 yards."
And when they trigger, and they tweak out, and it's a giant, right? And he just zigzagging everywhere and exposing himself like crazy. You're like, how do we not find giants all the time? You can't. They might as well be a blinking star, But the reality is, it's true. But they just don't do that. It's just
There's a fine little time when that doe is like primed up and ready.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they are slow, calculated, methodical. But it's that one day. It's almost like an elk when you almost can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
That one day of the season, you could hit him with the worst call on the planet. He's still ripping in to fight you. There's very short windows where these Coos just spaz out and they just go nuts. They lose it.
When I was trying to shoot my buck, Ryan's got him on the camera, and he just was like a pinball, going all over, bird dogging this doe, running, and then there was no visible doe, and no, we couldn't figure out what he was doing. And Ryan's filming, and I was reviewing the footage, and he's like, and we're running, and we're running, and we're running because we like to run. And he run there, now he's running there. Like we don't know why this buck is going, he's just doing stuff, but it's just bizarre. And then he chases this deer, and it's like he just got to be in his bonnet, and that was it. And he was going, and it's funny. And again, you see that, and so someone like Hunter McWaters, who's kind of new to all this, Western, he's sitting there, and he's like, that's what he's looking for, that. Wild chaos. Well, you can't look for that. That just pops out when it's there.
Yeah,
and you got lucky.
You get those gimmies when they're there. And
but 99% of the time it's like, oh, I saw a glimpse of it from 2-3 miles away. He looked big just for a second. Let's go over there tomorrow, which is what we did for Ryan's deer. And then and boom. And that's the little lead. And it was a 2-mile climb to get there. Nobody that goes on a hunt on that place probably ever went to that spot.
Yeah, has ever ventured up there.
And which made it fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the idea that, the only deer taken off that place are the ones that we've taken off in the last 7 or 8 years, and that it's you're getting the maximum potential there. And our ranch has water holes because it's a live cattle ranch, which might actually maybe hurt feed and whatnot, but there is at least water everywhere. But both bucks that Bridget and Matt killed, run main ridge systems. They're running down it. They're obviously scent checking passes and saddles. And when we go up there to kill them, they're going. We make a play, try to get ahead of them. When we finally relocate them, they did a 180 somehow. That we watched them for 10 minutes, confirmed they were going to run this ridge until you get up there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, they're going back the other way. Both of their bucks did a complete 180 reversal, and just like random stuff that you didn't prepare for, and then you had to like switch your plan, run up a different mountain, get your shot.
Yeah, we had to decide with both our bucks. Do we just stay where we're at, or do we close the distance? And both of us acknowledged the fact that, well, if we move, 500 yards closer, they could move 500 yards back to right where we're at right now. Like it could be that quick in a flash. And so, but, it paid off both times, and we made the call. Why do you think we made the call? Like, what's your calculations?
As far as what? We made the call for what?
To move, to close that. We could have stayed on the rim rock.
At the very end there?
Both of ours deer.
We had spent so much time watching that deer. We kind of figured out, like, our dream was he was going to come down to the water spot. Right?
Yeah.
That was our dream. Like,
Brian kept saying,
like, if this happens, it's going to be
so
picture
wanted
perfect.
it to be this scenario. And he didn't want to shoot it outside that scenario.
Yeah. We had a lot of opportunities where I could have poked out and killed that buck prior, but yeah, something was like,
I want to kill it
eventually
this way.
He's got to end up on this spot. It's like a perfect, easy shot. But then after watching that buck and kind of figuring out what he was doing so long, and then seeing that group of does kind of move in that direction, we knew he was going to kind of be up down. Now, he could have done a Coos deer type thing and just turned around and ran back down to the water when we got up to our spot, but there was just kind of a feeling like, all right, we've watched him enough to know he's probably going to move around. If we run up this ridge, a couple 100 yards, get in position, let's let him make a mistake. If he gets on our side at all, we've got another kill box, and we've got him, and we don't have to sit here waiting for him to come to this water anymore. So it worked out. I think it was a kind of a intuition type thing scenario, but
also we didn't hunt to the point of failure. Like,
no.
When you said that, and we did the same thing with mine, we always knew that it wouldn't hurt us necessarily. We would just have to reverse and go back to where we were. We weren't throwing the dice in so far that it was a make or break move.
Well, to the point,
it didn't hurt us necessarily.
You wouldn't stink up his hillside. You weren't going to blow him out of there.
Right. There was no chance that we would screw it up. And we still had a couple days, day or two at the end. So we thought if it doesn't work out and he slips us, gets in the heavy stuff, we don't get eyes on him again, we'll be here tomorrow morning doing this same program. So,
Yeah, it was a great hunt. I have a question for you. So you're in camp. You got the Meat Eater crew. You got Clay. You got Rinella.
Steve.
You got Steve. Who else was with
Bridget,
you?
Bridget, our marketing manager, and then one investor on the board, and then one really good friend of Steve. Matt.
So we went up there. We watched your camp, and one of the people I've never had on the podcast is Rinella. I thought at some point we would just bump into each other. It was just the circles we're in. We would bump into each other. It would be a natural thing. We'd hang out, and I'd meet Steve, and we'd talk and disagree on stuff and have some conversations. It never happened. So you're in camp with Rinella, and we get to see Steve like on TV and all that kind of stuff. But how is it hunting with Steve?
He's the real deal. Like, there's like, how is he as a hunter? Like, he's a go-getter. Yeah. Like, he hikes hard. He doesn't want to feel like, the outcome is never because he didn't work hard. Mm-hmm. I was stoked to be on Team Can-Am on that hunt, because we just let our glass do all the walking, where his poor group, Clay and then Jason Bergsman, they were just, you'd look back like, oh, you guys hiked 7 miles today. We did like 300 yards and then just walked back to the Can-Am after we killed, So, they get after it. They hunt hard. They a little impatient. Like, one day we had 2-shooter bucks kind of on our face, and he came and joined us. And, another big thing with Coos deer is your lighting. Like, you need to be looking at the right slope morning and night. It was kind of like in between, and Steve glossed with us for 10 minutes. Like, this is a waste of my night. I'm going somewhere else. So he was up and out. But no, he just, he's always joking, always giving people crap. But
he's competitive, right? He
very,
seems like
very serious.
I've heard him, like, little blips talk about, like, the reason he started getting into the gym and, like, lifting some is because he doesn't want Giannis to kick his ass going up the hill, right? He doesn't want anybody to out-hike him, which is great. That's the makings of a great hunter.
Yeah.
What I love are when he gets pissed off. Like, he gets perturbed.
Yeah.
And, for example, I was watching all the Meat Eater Coos deer hunts over the last years in prep and then in post as well.
Yeah.
And Giannis has a buck, and he doesn't shoot the buck. He didn't get there in time. And Rinella's like, what do you mean you didn't shoot it? And he's like, well, it just never stopped. And he's like, well, you go, nah, and you stop it, and then you shoot it. And Giannis like, maybe you would, but I didn't. And you could see Steve's visibly pissed off. Then he's got his hat down. He's like, I got to figure it out. It would be like, boom. That's how it would have gone if I were the shooter.
Yeah. So that we've also dialed it down. I've never got to shoot anything with like Steve over my shoulder, which sounds like I'm very thankful for. It sounds like he adds the most, similar to the story you just told about Giannis, like Steve doesn't see what your problem is at any time when you're in kill mode. Like there's a shot, there's always an angle, and you're not working fast enough.
I confess, I'm a little bit like the same.
Yeah.
I relate.
I hear that all the time. Like if I take my time, which I do every time, I always hear about it later.
Yeah.
You're making me nervous. Yeah, his famous go-to line is, I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, dude, we could have shot this 7 times in the last 7 hours, but we're going to wait some more.
Yeah, the old, why didn't you shoot it? I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Jason, he's only ever killed a turkey and then an elk. So this was like a true Western. And like, Jason killed a real wide, heavy, massive buck, just short tine though, but a old heavy deer.
He was probably the best buck on the trip, right? Yeah, it was a pretty deer.
Heavy, made all of
kind of the beams were bladed like.
And Jason, they get in tight, and it sounds like it doesn't make the situation better when Steve's there. But
I have had to work on that. People have reported back to me that I make them. I heighten the intensity of the situation. So I've had to work on it where I'm like, I try not to be urgent, So like with Livesey, I'm making a conscious effort to try to, he's about to shoot this big buck, in a blizzard, and he's set up, and I'm like, take your time. It's fine. It's cool. I got the camera. Go ahead whenever you want to. And it's taking forever. And the buck stands up, and I'm like, he's up. And he's still getting everything ready and doing his, dude, forever. Yeah. Forever. He could have shot this buck like 7 times. Yep. And then the buck starts walking, and I'm like looking at it because I want to see where the shot goes through the binos. I got the camera on it, and I have the camera as far over as it can go. And then if the deer goes, there's a snowbank. If it goes behind it, it's gone. Yep. And you can hear me going, yeah, okay, well, Mark, go ahead, anytime. Just before it goes behind the bank, I'm like, shoot it! And he shoots.
Everything, you were doing so well right
up. Doing so well. And then I'm just like, are you kidding me? And part of that is because as a cameraman trying to film a hunt and capture it and tell a story, I know how difficult it is to get the camera set up in those conditions, fight the blizzard, get it on there, have it dialed, have him set up, and I'm sure we could get that deer. I'm not sure we could get it on film. That's the part that's so much trickier. It adds a level of complexity. Yeah. And so I do feel a little stress when I have the perfect exposure, sharpen it, everything's dialed, and then Ryan doesn't shoot it. It's like, oh, crap. Now I have to try to accomplish the same thing again
tomorrow.
And it's like, and I don't want it to be blurry. I don't want it to be messed up. I want it to be in. I didn't get Ryan's buck in slow motion, and that thing when he gets that bug and it shoots to the top of that sign right there, just boing, straight up. It's impressive. But
I didn't take my time with that one though.
No, that was the opposite, which is what Ryan does. I think good hunters do this. They know when to be calm and slow, and they know when to be fast.
Yeah. You had a limited opportunity there that you needed to capitalize on.
He was about to be gone for the day, I felt like. Another 5-6 feet to the right, we may not have seen him. It would have been a next day scenario. So,
And I had it on him, and it was a good close range shot. And so I had it on him, and I'm like, I'm on him. And I'm like, oh, man, I really want to switch to slow motion. I look down at Ryan, and I'm like, this sucker's going to – he's not going to let it sit there for 5 minutes like he normally does. I could tell. I just left it. And I didn't get it in the slow-mo mode. But we'll do our best to slow it down anyway because it's pretty wild where it goes. And you know how we watched it just take off? And we were like, where'd it go? But it broke uphill, right? Mm-hmm. So when I replayed it later and I was looking, you see him just bounce, just go through a gap at the top of the screen.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. We pick up so much stuff later.
Yeah, that you didn't know was there. So much stuff.
I mean, every year, almost every hunt now, we pick up things, especially little things like rat configurations. And, man, we would miss a lot if we didn't have the camera going.
One of these days I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to watch it when I get home, and there's going to be a mountain lion over my shoulder that I never knew was there.
It's coming. We came darn close to that years ago with the bear. But
we did that with the bear. So tell me about what's going on with Phelps right now. what you got on the market? How's business?
Things are going good. I mean, everybody that's listening probably knows the economy's not like awesome, but we're maintaining. We're still growing like crazy. As we start to fill our categories up, it's more of a go back, refine, improve upon. So like this year on the turkey side, we're doing like more small batch, like real select materials, real hard to get. And then one thing we did is we just went out and found, there's the influence side, and then we took a different direction on the turkey. Is we went out and found like great call builders, like guys that are building world class calls, world champions, and like let's do a collab together. So we've got that was our idea on the turkey side. Like let's go get James Harrison, 18. I'm going to say the number wrong. A bazillion-time owl hooting champion in all these different divisions, and Steve Morgenstern, X amount of time friction championship, and he judges the NWTF Grand Nationals now. Like, and we picked the materials, we built them, and then like they're assembling them, and I just wanted to do things different. Like we had never played like Steve Morgenstern's in the shop, like playing every one, and if it doesn't meet his his signatures on it, he breaks them apart and tries again, and if it doesn't work again, he throws the whole thing away. So like we're shooting more for just like that elk side. We've got a few new things coming out, some new calls, but nothing groundbreaking. We'll have some new waterfowl stuff coming out. We've partnered with some. So like one thing that's been very important to me is like stay in my lane, which is turkey, elk, a little bit of predator.
Yeah.
And I mean, why I can blow on waterfowl calls, I can go and build turkey calls. Like I want to be, have the best. I want the best sounding, and I'm not going to be the guy that's going to like see that all the way through. Yeah. So my idea now is like just to build that team around me. Let me do the elk. Let me do some of the turkey stuff. But like, let's bring in the experts, and let's make sure our product's there first, and we'll figure out how to market it later.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's a little different approach, I think, than most people take with today's. I mean, we did it too. You go find great influencers and promote the heck out of your product. Yeah. But here we kind of just went back. Like let's go back to the drawing board, make sure product's dialed, and go from there. So,
are there any surprises? Like I noticed you got the easy sucker around your neck, right? How did that one do? Like how did that call do overall?
It's our best selling call of all time. Like I'm glad Dirk's not on this podcast because the Maverick, his diaphragm forever has been our best selling SKU. 5 years running, and to take a product that's quite a bit more than it and then outsell it in numbers was you think diaphragms cheap, disposable, like how are we going to take a call like that? And this is kind of our first show. We're here at the Western Hunt Expo, getting feedback, and it's like it knocked it out of the park. Awesome. Everybody loves it. I mean, it's a little bit, we're hearing it's a little bit quiet, which we kind of knew, but people are saying like results and how it finishes. People said results are crazy, and it's all those people that can't run a diaphragm. So we identified, which is
a significant number, right?
Yeah, we didn't realize it. Me and Dirk just assume everybody knows how to run a diaphragm, and if you don't, you should. Where you hear enough people here, like, man, I just can't run it. Or you hear them and you're like, they're not very good. Like, we need to find something for these guys.
Yeah.
And then to develop a product that had, there's a why. Why are we designing this call? We come up with a solution we feel is better than like, hands-free. But, Hoochie Mama's a great call, right? Yep. Sounds like an elk, but it interrupts what we're doing during an elk hunt or what we should be doing. And so to like check all these boxes and come up with a product that I felt, was kind of emerging technology. That's what I get excited about. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with one of those every couple of years, but it's the hardest part's even planting the seed. Like, when do I decide that there's a big enough need, and when do I need to go like come up with a design? But we're always looking for stuff. We're always playing around. I just shot off some 3D prototypes, and sometimes things are just duds, right?
Yeah.
I have $3,000 worth of useless 3D parts on my desk right now. It's like they weren't even close enough that I don't know which direction to go to fix them either. It's just like, and so you throw a dart at a dartboard, see if it has any like legitimacy, and if not, you go back to the drawing board.
I want you to reflect a little bit because the first time we met was at a full draw film school.
Yep.
And you and I showed up. I met you for the first time. This was 2015?
It would have been earlier. Yeah, 15.
2015. If you had told me this is where things would be in 2022, I would never have dreamed it.
Nope.
I couldn't have.
No,
I didn't have that kind of goal.
No, and that, people ask me for business advice sometimes, and I'm like, you don't want advice from me. I did it, and I did it completely out of passion. Like, I loved what I was doing. I loved, hearing the stories from people. And I didn't put together a business plan. I didn't look at, profits and losses. None of that made sense. I'm like, as long as I'm not, like, drawn from my own checkbook, like, we're doing good, But, yeah, 2015, like, I had already been in business for 6 years, and things weren't going great. I mean, they were progressing, but it wasn't, like, where we're at now, and what you've been able to accomplish. And, I think I still thought Ryan was a poacher back in 2015 because nobody could accomplish what he was doing in Washington without being a poacher.
Right.
So I think I probably Corey Miller straightened that all out, because I'm like, this guy's, there's no way. And then you realize what the guy can do. And then, so I have to apologize.
That's funny.
I have to apologize, even though I never told that to you the time I met you down at Triple X. I always thought I never told you that, but in my mind, I'm like, how does this guy do this in this state?
Yeah, there's a few people like that, though, where you look at him and you think, how? And they're just that good.
Yep.
When I look at, like you mentioned earlier, no density, no animal density, but the few that are there are giant. That's Ryan's storybook.
Yeah.
So when he was able to, in a state like Washington, just not a lot of opportunity, but the few that were there, he could find them. And until I hunted with him in Arizona that first time, it was a paradigm shift for me. Like, the way I viewed how to hunt completely changed for me. And it seemed silly. Like, I feel silly looking back going, I should have learned that before. But when you grow up with Hunter Orange and your whole family goes out and you just hunt for a week and you go home and no one kind of mentors you in a different way, and you're following like the Hunting Fool, and they're just like, I got this great tag. You think it's really the tag that's the reason they get. So you just need that 10 points in that state, and then you'll shoot the same big deer. And it just was like, I don't know. It took learning from someone.
Yeah.
And this is me. If people who are listening, if you want to be successful at anything in life, like, I gravitate toward people who are really the best in their trade, the best at what they do, and then I try to learn from them how they do it.
Yep.
And you could say I rode the coattails of a lot of people, and it wouldn't be a lie, because in some sense that's what I've done. I've been like, okay, show me.
Yeah.
But it's also my job to then learn and then do it.
Oh, yeah.
And having Ryan there and observing, and then taking parts and pieces. And I don't, for me, I'm asking him some questions, but Ryan doesn't volunteer much. And most people that are really good at stuff don't even know why they're good at it or what it is that makes, on the broad scale. They don't think of it that way. And like he said earlier, well, it just kind of instinct to go there. It's like, well, for you, it felt right for you.
I've selfishly, like, invited him on 2 elk hunts, which, truth be told, haven't been our greatest hunts ever. But I selfishly, it's like, to be considered, fairly good at my craft, calling elk, I want to know, like, well, this guy's killing bigger bulls than me. And I always want to be a student. And that's what I never want to stop learning. Like, he obviously does stuff right and does stuff different. Like, I just want to learn from people that do stuff different. And, like, all right, this guy I thought was a poacher, like, how's he going out and killing these, big critters, and what's his style? And that's the thing, like, riding coattails, whatever people want to call it, like, I want information. Like, I'm thirsty for more information. Like, if that's going to make me better for the next 20 years, then I want to know it now so I can, utilize that.
I can think of certain people I ran into, like, I hunted on Kodiak Island with Adam Foss. That was a pivotal moment. Like, I learned things about my camera I had no idea about, and I was just asking, watching, asking. I had Luke Duesenberry in the office at Mountain Ops, editing. How'd you do that? How'd you do that? How'd you do that? Hunting with Ryan, like, how did you do that? Hunting with other guys who taught me how to load a backpack, how to carry a backpack, fitness people. Like, I want to talk to those awesome people that are the best, and then try to emulate that as much as I can. And I feel like that's why my podcast has done well, too, is because you got to come along for the ride. Like, all I'm doing is trying to get better, and then I'm sharing what I'm learning from each of these people with you. And through my observations,
Yep.
you know, and it's been cool. By the way, I have a question for you, Ryan. Now that Jason has confessed his inner thoughts on your poaching background,
We don't have to dig deep on this one.
How does that cut you deep? Like,
I don't know. He mentioned this to me before. Yeah, we've had this conversation.
I had to apologize and eat some humble pie a little bit, but like that's just where I think it's just a testament to what he was accomplishing in Washington at that point.
Yeah.
Like I was, I was hunting wilderness.
you were
deer.
busting your ass.
I was hunting hard wilderness areas, and my results weren't the same.
Yeah.
So and I was young. I would say I've grown up a lot in 10 years.
Right.
But back then it was, there's two ways to build the biggest building in the city. You can tear everybody else down, or you can just build the biggest building. It was like, this guy's accomplishing something. I'm out there busting my butt. I feel like I'm doing stuff different than everybody. And it was just like one of those, no, he's not killing those big giant black bears here. He's not killing these giant bucks. They don't exist unless you're in Chelan late or whatever. But no, I feel bad. I would want to rewind time and then not call him a poacher.
Well, yeah, the same thing happens though. It's like you're young and you look at it and you think they can't possibly be doing what they're doing fairly, because that would indict me.
Oh yeah, now I'm slacking somehow.
Yeah, that would be that would point back at me saying I'm actually not doing things right, or I'm inadequate, or I've got a problem, and it can't possibly be me, Jason.
Yeah, I agree. I apologize. I'm going on the record and apologizing again to Mr. Ryan Lampers for assuming.
And there's another thing too, though, is what I realized was the number of days in the field that Ryan spent in all those years with no one watching, no one looking, no Instagrams, no Facebook. You can't compete. I can't compete with a guy who spent 150 days a year, 100 days a year, 50 days a year in the field when I spent, 2 weeks of vacation
that's
a year.
Right, yeah.
And when you start to do the math, just time in the field, Ryan talks about it all the time. How many days?
Yeah, I think that's where I was extremely blessed and lucky and fortunate, whatever word you want to throw at it. I grew up in a family that allowed me time. My cousin Joe Tyburn, we ran a business together. And, Joe being a guy who loves hunting just as much as I do, he gave me the time. Like, he would put in the hours, the overtime, and take work off my plate to allow me to spend all of September in the mountains, and then he'd go chase some gun season. So I just was fortunate to be around people, my family, my cousins, that afforded me more time than everybody else, I guess. And I had incredible mentors. I've talked about Dallas Blood multiple times in my elk, history with elk. My father, my uncle, these are just hunting nuts. And I don't know, I did have more time probably than a lot of folks. And I think maybe too much time in my youth.
Yeah, Hillary would say that. But at the same time,
and damn her for starting that Instagram account.
Hillary doesn't think he's a poacher. She knows he's gone all the time. Like 16 days, like normally now, if we do a hunt, we try to make sure it's not less than 10. Yeah. 10's like a minimum. And a lot of guys are like, okay, Saturday to Saturday or something, like Saturday to Sunday, and then I got to be back. And the odds of success go down exponentially with those short hunt windows. And nowadays I say to people, you want to be more successful, hunt more, hunt longer. I say, give me enough days, I'm skilled enough now. Give me enough days, I can get it done.
Yeah.
I can get it done.
I will add to that. Like, I just had a conversation with a gentleman over here, and he just came up, shook my hand, and he said, what's the secret, to success and all that? And, the answer always is we just make sure we have the time to do it. There's nothing special about us, but you are really hindered if you're going out for 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't expect somebody that has like 2 weeks off a year or weekends only to be filling every tag and extremely successful on mature bucks. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're blessed to have the time we do, and we have created this lifestyle. It just didn't happen. Yeah. But we have built our life around this to make sure that we get those days in the fall. So we're we have the time to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the world's greatest to be very successful with days.
Yep. No, I'm in the same boat. Like a lot of times, even on elk, it takes 6-7 days to kind of figure out patterns and where things are wanting to be and what they're doing. And then it's like, all right, now I need 3 or 4 days to execute,
Yes.
But if you were only going to be there for 7 days, you just figured it out when you've got to, leave or go home. And
You've been on a number of hunts where you are helping others. People always want help because you can call, you've got that experience, elk, been on a number of hunts helping other people. What's the most, looking back, what's one of the most fun hunts you've done in the last few years that has been, not your own, but for someone else, where you've seen someone do something like, whoa? And
man, it would be the hunt with Ryan. Me and my group of buddies, I would say I get more opportunities than most. So we went and we were in Idaho in, what was that, 19? 18.
I think it was 18.
Our unit we were going to hunt was on fire. I was in Colorado hunting, when we found out the unit was going to be shut down. We wanted to go to. Literally, I've looked at this area on Onyx once, let's go. And so we had split up. It was, we were hunting with Matt Davis, Mountain Ops, and so we split up in some different groups. And I was able to, I did some night bugling when we first showed up. And I was hunting with my buddy Tyson, who we had hunted together a lot. He's packed out a lot of my bulls, been there on a lot of my deer hunts. And, we've hunted together, and things have always seemed to kind of be in my favor. I've killed the bigger animals.
Yeah.
I waited to the right time and killed the bigger deer, the bigger bull. And on that one, he was the first shooter, and he was able to kill that 330 bull. And
great bull.
One of the coolest call-ins I've ever been a part of. I'm just a caller. A bull comes up bugling to 20 yards. We're just in a brush hole. There was no good setup. And he goes to leave, and we scream in his face, and that thing gets pissed and turns back around and comes 6 yards to him, and he thumps it in the front. I love, of course, everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's so cliche. Everybody talks about, wanting to help their buddies out. But I'm like, I truly loved helping a buddy out that's been there for me and just maybe – and this sounds really shallow. We're talking because based on the size of animals, but we're all there to – do the same things and challenge ourselves. It just had panned out a couple times where I killed the bigger bucks, the bigger bulls when he's been around, and then to be able to repay the favor to him for strapping my animals on his back was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I really like that hunt.
Yeah, that was a fun hunt. It was a tough hunt though. I remember we put on a lot of miles. We struggled through that puppy, but we got a couple of kills in there somewhere. Yeah, Matt took a bull.
Yeah.
And Tyson took a bull, so.
And then me and you got a little selfish that day. We could have I don't want to say we
had a
could
bull
have.
that we should have went after. He was hot. He was ready to be taken. And we had, pie in our eyes. We were like, that was this one sounds bigger over here. Let's walk by this one and go for it.
It was one of those ones where we knew what he was because we could lay eyes on him. We didn't know what those two that sounded big were. And so we elected to go after and I missed that night on a bull that was snuck in and then kind of bounced back out. But, that was just cool. I truly do like helping buddies. My wife, she drew a good tag in Washington, struck out, and then I was able to go back, and it was just me and her. All of our friends had left, and I thought there was no way this is going to work. And, to make it happen there, my dad's getting a little bit older, and as frustrating as it is to hunt with him now, it's like time's reversing. And when I ask him to do something, Dad, don't stand up right now, but that buck. And so what's he do? He pops up and wants to look for it. And I'm like, Dad, I said he was, but I love hunting with him because, you hear it too often. The times.
Oh, for sure.
There's only so much time there, but
I hunted with my dad this year, and I'm starting to go, wait a minute. I look over at him like, where did the time? He's old.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't old a year ago.
Yeah.
Or was he? Where was I?
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the hands of time creeping up on him, and now I'm in an urgent rush to do more with him. And,
It's interesting, because you consider the group of buddies I get to hunt with, I don't want to use the word killers, but in the go zone, go time, everything just works like it's supposed to. And then you get with my dad, he misses a shot, and then we have to go track it down, and then he's going to come back out, don't stand up. And I'm like, I said, don't stand up. And he hops up. Now the deer are running. And then I'm like, it just, but, I like hunting with my dad. My kids are just getting into it. He killed his first buck in Montana last year. We should get to go back this year. So it's just, like I was talking, me calling Ryan a poacher, like the growing up I've did in the last 12 years. Like I'm truly starting to enjoy like being involved in other people's success, and it's not. I would say bloodthirsty is not the right word, but I don't have that as much as I did 12 years ago, where I had to kill something on every hunt. Like I can enjoy a hunt now for just being in country and pursuing the animals and maybe waiting for something special.
Yeah, I will say that what gets me excited now is a much older age class animal than before, and so I'm not satisfied with something different.
Yep.
But less experienced friends and family, they're just happy to get a chance, and if I can bring that to them, I sort of, when I see their excitement and their success, I sort of vicariously experience, flashback in time and sort of feel that same excitement, where today it takes a pretty good critter for me to feel that way.
Yeah.
And so there's just no drive at all. Like I was talking to Jim Heffelfinger, I was saying, I love Coos deer. In some ways, though, if it's not a Boone and Crockett, if it's not 100 inches plus 110, I'm really just not, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like a 90, 80-inch Coos, I'm like, I'd rather shoot nothing. Like I'm that much of a snob.
Yep.
But with mule deer, I'm like super stoked to go fling arrows at 160-inch bucks.
Oh, yeah, all day.
This guy,
no.
I am trying to get him to come with me, and he's like, dude, if they're not at least like in the 90s, 190, just doesn't interest me at all. And it's like, ouch. But that's where he's at with that animal. And when you walk in his garage, you understand why.
Yeah.
But you're doing a lot with your daughter.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, she's shooting animals that you're just done with. But for her, they are great for any dude.
Oh, yeah.
But tell me, you're experiencing that.
I'm
pleasure.
seeing that now. Like I'm maturing, I guess. I'm getting a lot more pleasure out of taking her on hunts. 10 years ago, 6 years ago, I was doing a lot of solo stuff still. I was very selfish, and now it's really flipped. We got one of the camera guys, like Kayam, on his first mule deer this year. We kind of got him the bear bug as well. He went off and took his first bear. And these hunts with my daughters, I've got to do 3 years of mule deer chasing with my oldest girl, Paley. She's taken 3 great bucks in her 3 years. She's kind of spoiled. But she hunts hard. She's got longer legs than Brian Call. She can hike better than Brian Call. She probably shoots better than most of us here.
Yep.
And she's a killer, and she really enjoys, her time with me out there and just hunting. And my younger daughter, she's not there yet. She's 7.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed just taking her on hunts. So I took her on a hunt last year. One of the best, it was the highlight of my year. Obviously, she's not hunting, but she was there. She stayed with me for 12 days in the mountains, looking for bears, playing in the sand.
Checking off her wish list of what she wanted to accomplish.
Wish lists, and, she just had a great time. And it's a hunt that she wants to do again. And at 7, for her to ask me she wants to do that again, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have the whole family and my wife and both daughters, and we're going to go do it again this year. And so I look forward to those hunts more than anything else.
Combining the two is so wonderful because 12 days away from them, combined with the days that you and I are out
it's
doing
hard,
things,
man.
it's hard. And
it's
so
hard
to combine it, it's a great way to go.
I'd say last year I hit a wall where I realized, and this sounds cliche as heck, but I really don't care about these tags for myself. I would rather, if I get an opportunity to go someplace and I can get that tag for Paley and I don't get one, great. I'd rather do that by a mile. The problem is she's still in school, so I can only get her so often, and I can't rip her out of school too much. But that's where I'm at in my career, and I think it's great. I love it.
There's a good quote that if you ever need to, use it to make yourself feel better about getting her out of, don't let school get in the way of your kid's education.
Yeah. She has missed some days. She has definitely, but I gotta go easy. They're only allowed so many days.
Yeah. Unexcused before they turn you into the state or something nowadays.
10 days.
Let your kid be truant too much.
So I got another question for you guys. Ryan, I know Ryan has a lot of respect for you, Jason. And Jason, you have a lot of respect for Ryan. Spent some time together hunting a lot. Ryan, as you've hunted with Jason, what's a couple of things that you've taken away from that you've learned that's kind of something you appreciate about what Jason brings to the table.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of conversations about Jason. I don't tell him to his face usually because I got to keep him humble. But so the man is, don't let his looks fool you, folks. He is smarter than he looks. I'll just say that. Jason's a very, very smart man. There's no doubt why he's so dang successful at his business. If I had half the retention of what Phelps has, I would be way ahead of myself because he remembers everything, and he is he's just skilled at everything he does. From hunting, he's a blast to hunt with. The guy's always cracking jokes. He's fun. He's a big man, and he can move some weight. He can move some weight. But I think what's most impressed me is his brain. Like he's very, very smart individual.
Thank you.
Big dang brain.
Now I'm all blushy and stuff. I don't follow that one up. No, hunting with Ryan, like I say, it's a little selfish on why, but getting to hunt with him and just talk with his knowledge and his ideas and planning. But one thing that I take away from Ryan hunting with him is he's never willing to compromise. I would say on a stock, or like he's always willing to go the extra mile to make sure that he's going to be successful, or that. And I think that kind of probably goes through everything. I've only got to share 2 elk hunts with him, but you see, the Western Hunt Summit. It's let's go. Where I'm like, I think I can squeeze by these elk at 500 yards. Ryan's like, no, we're going to go 2 miles around this ridge because that guarantees. So no shortcuts.
Yeah.
And his health, fitness, helps him with that because for me it's a little bit of a decision. Like, do I want to sweat and breathe that hard? And I think that carries into everything he does. Like, he's always willing to go the extra mile. The Western Hunt Summits he puts together are next level. I've got to do a lot of camps and this or that or overnighters and educationals, and I feel like his summits are some of the best put together. And I think that is like underlaying everything he does in life. Like he's not taking any shortcuts. He's doing things the right way. And the results are what they are. It's what's, in my opinion, allowed him to get to the next level, and maybe even a level that's not he doesn't share with too many people. Like it's just that next level, and some of us aspire to be that good someday when I grow up.
Yeah. It takes there's some patience there, an annoying level of patience.
Yep, and knowledge. I mean, he talked about. My brain, but his knowledge of animals, a lot of it comes from the gut, and it's really hard to explain that. And until people are, why are we doing this? He has that at the next level as well. Like, this is what we should do. And it's a lot of experience. He's seen it done, but it's a lot of just like, this is what I think we should do. And we go and do it, and it pans out.
Well, it's a pleasure to know you both. I'm glad you're my friends. I'm glad you took the time to come over here, Jason, sit down, and we roped Brian in.
Yep.
It's a pleasure. For those that want to follow what you're doing, Jason, where do they go?
PhelpsGameCalls.com is where you can buy our stuff. And if you want to just, social media, Instagram, Facebook, I think we're on TikTok now. I don't even know. I think we're somewhere there.
Yeah.
Even though I've found TikTok doesn't want you to kill stuff on there ever. That gets flagged real quick. But we're readily, easily accessible.
Right on.
We still, me and Dirk both love. We want to see people use elk calling or any calling to help their success in the field. So it's usually me or Dirk helping helping all of our customers out getting better.
Yep. All right, folks. You know where to find Stealthy. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. We thank you. If you like the show, make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, stay gritty, friends.